me, perhaps air pollution was something I felt interested in. So it's not uncommon to see IIIT students in some Shark Tank episode. English is the new language of coding.
Okay. Hello everyone, welcome back to AlumX. Today we have Professor Nipun Batra with us in the studio. Dr. Batra is an associate professor and the founder of the Sustainability Lab at IIT Gandhinagar. Dr. Nipun Batra, I would like to welcome you back into IIIT-Delhi, and perhaps this is your home since you grew here, studied here. So, what was the moment when you realized Delhi's air was getting deteriorated?
So I grew up in Delhi. My schooling and undergraduate education was all from Delhi. And I completed my undergraduate education in 2011. Frankly, I was not talking about air quality, which means I was also not thinking about air quality at that point in time. And I think that was also the general trend or the conversations around with friends. I don't know, perhaps it was just we were worried about other things initially. Maybe we were worried about getting into the best engineering colleges, or maybe the problem wasn't there very significantly. But honestly, I don't think we ever talked about air quality and related issues at least till 2011, 2012. Perhaps after that, we started seeing the changes. The schools started getting closed because of air quality. The media started covering a lot, as well as I think the health effects started to show. So I think it's a cumulative thing when the discussion started becoming quite commonplace.
Exactly, it has slowly crept in and you can't just pinpoint the moment.
Right.
Now, IIIT Delhi is fairly a new institution as compared to other institutions here in India. And you have done your Ph.D. here, and then you went on to become a professor in IIT. So where do you think IIIT Delhi stands in terms of research institutions today?
I think it stands at the top. I would typically, the way I see myself as a faculty and what I want to be proud of is my students. Similarly, I would say the hallmark of a great institution is where the students have gone on to work, to the kind of things they have achieved. I think it has done fantastic. The students have done amazing across different facets. So it's not uncommon to see IIIT students in some Shark Tank episode, to even some faculty. You might see them. They've been doing amazing in research. We have also seen a bunch of awards. The kinds of problems the faculty are working on, the students have been contributing. I think overall it's a amazing institute, and I'm very glad that the vision with which it started, it's able to live up to that.
Well, thank you very much. Now let's get back into a bit of your research, since it's very interesting, and the fact that we are living in Delhi says a lot about it. Why do you think most Indian cities like Delhi or maybe even Kolkata, this metropolitan cities, stand at the top of the most polluted cities in the world? What is it about India? Is it something geographical or an incompetent government? What is it?
Okay, interesting question, interesting last set of points. So I would say that India is at a very interesting crossroads. Every year we talk about India being one of the most polluted places.
Yes.
A lot of Indian cities would top the charts. Importantly, if you were to analyze the data, you'll see that most of those cities which seem to be more polluted end up being in an area called the Indo-Gangetic Plain. So this, you could say that perhaps something starting from Haryana to Bengal along the Ganges, if you see. Now this interestingly becomes a landlocked region. If you've seen, it's a landlocked region. So the geography does play a very important part on why this has been one of the most polluted set of places. And also, even in COVID, if you saw, the pollution levels did go down significantly, but still they will not reach the kind of levels which perhaps some city in Europe will reach, just because places like the Middle East and the Southeast Asia, they are inherently very dusty. So there are a lot of geographic factors because of which these places will tend to be heavily polluted. But that is not, I don't think we should be blaming the geography for those reasons. We should be also looking at, so whenever we talk about air quality and air pollution, we have to think about two factors. One being the emissions. So let's think of emissions as any point source which is producing pollutant. So it could be a thermal power plant, it could be a car, it could be anything which will burn and it will cause some kind of emission. The other factor being metrology. which will transport the pollutants. It will lead to combination of pollutants, which will eventually create secondary pollutants. The only thing which is in our control is emissions. Interestingly, in India, again, there is no one specific area or emission source to put the blame to. And I've also felt as a citizen and now someone who is on the academic side of things trying to look at such problems, it's also a question of who is going to be responsible for reducing this air pollution. The interesting thing about air pollution is that it is not limited to a particular geography. So therefore, you cannot have maybe some ministers or some body sitting in Delhi be able to reduce it when maybe part of the problem is outside the city. So I think it's a multifaceted problem, very, it's non-trivial to solve. There are a lot of interesting applications and a lot of interesting efforts, interventions being carried out. I hope more of that is done, and the citizens deserve better air.
So it needs the whole body of state governments and the central government to
Right.
actively work on it.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you think students like us, researchers, BTech students here in IIIT, not just in IIIT Delhi, all institutions across India should focus on, their research should be?
So for me, perhaps air pollution was something I felt interested in. There are so many other problems, like the heat stress is a big problem. Climate change is a big problem. Flooding is a big problem. So a lot of such urban problems exist, a lot of such rural problems exist. So India does provide a plethora of problems to work on, which perhaps might not be that easy to work upon in some other countries. So I think it's also a great opportunity to be a part of the solution. So I think there are a lot of interesting things happening. I'm also fascinated by the fact that the governments, the different corporations are also coming up with different hackathons. So I think they are readily willing to share their data, to have a dialogue with the different stakeholders. I am sincerely hopeful that some of this leads to some ground action.
Coming back to your research again, your lab detects bricklins, and that was one of your very prominent research work. So again, how many are there in India, and why is it so difficult to track them?
So those who might not know what a brick kiln is, if you've ever traveled around rural India in trains, you'll see those chimney-like structures. Those chimney-like structures could be due to sugarcane being manufactured, but very often it is due to something like, which is brick kilns, which is due to bricks being manufactured. So brick kilns are those structures with a chimney and bricks nearby them, and they have these heating patterns. So it's a very unorganized sector. And as with any unorganized sector, it is hard to regulate. The, the different pollution control boards have a lot of compliance rules that these should not be within 1 kilometers of each other because they're heavily polluting. The smokestacks should be at least some feet high so that they release the pollutant significantly higher in the atmosphere. They should not be very close to river bodies. They should not be close to schools. So a lot of such rules exist. But let's think about how would you go about and figure out where these are, whether they have transitioned to better technology or not. So there are reports that if you transition to better technology, you may be able to reduce the pollution by about 40% arising from these brick kilns. So how do you detect these? You could perhaps do what is happening currently in India, do a census-like thing, go from district to district, figure out where these are. That does not really scale well. Next, you could perhaps take the satellite imagery, train machine learning models on them across the different classes because these structures are big enough to be seen, and then use that to do something on object detection from satellite imagery, which is a fairly well-known problem, do it at scale. So doing this exercise, we have identified about 80,000 such kilns in India and the neighboring countries, which is perhaps one of the largest such databases being created. Now, around Delhi NCR, all of the kilns have converted to the better technology.
Okay.
So I think there are such opportunities available which can also be win-win. At the same time, I think we should also be very careful when we talk about such technologies, and especially when we talk about punitive actions. We don't want some blanket bans on things. We want it to be a very stakeholder inclusive kind of discussions so that we can understand that this is also livelihood for them.
After a PhD, the natural route anybody would say is academia. You have to become a professor, you go through that. But you have had offers from many industries also. So As a student, how do you choose between industry and academia? How was your interest aligned with academia at the end of it?
To be honest, I think one of the reasons I chose academia was something which started at IIIT Delhi itself. When I was a TA in the first semester itself, which I joined here 2012 to 2016, a batch of students had just arrived, BTech students had just arrived. I was a teaching assistant in the Introduction to Programming course, and the faculty also gave me a free hand in being the lead TA. So I got a lot of opportunity towards seeing how the curriculum should be designed, how the course should be planned across the weeks, how the lab should be conducted, and how so I took some tutorial session, etc. So I think that really spiked my interest in teaching. I felt that that is something I could be very comfortable doing. But again, I don't want to be showing myself as someone who knew it all. I did apply to a few industrial labs.
Yeah.
I ended up choosing, also based on the offers which I got. I didn't get offers from all the academic places I got, and I didn't get offers from all the top industrial labs which I applied to. So it was largely also a question of where were you getting the offers, and the inclination and the interest matched.
What were you like as a student here in IIIT Delhi, or even in your school days?
As a student in the school, I think up till class 10th, it was a regular good student who will also play sports, will do a bunch of things, extracurriculars, etc. 11, 12, you get into the grind mode to try and clear JE and the other exams. In college, you are still exploring different options. You get fascinated by the world of engineering. I was also involved in certain projects like unmanned aerial vehicle project, for which we also participated in some competitions in the US. So there were a lot of things happening in college. I think IIIT Delhi was at a phase when I wanted to really dive deeper into things. I wanted to build things. Fortunately, I also got an advisor who was of the similar mold. So just build things, get something done. At that point, we were working on energy efficiency in buildings. So uh, as a student, I would say someone who was not the brightest in the classroom. I can be upfront about it. I would be amazed to see some of my co-students, peers grasp complex concepts like it was nothing. But I was someone who would be very hands-on, who would be able to understand things when I can see them and I can play with them. So one of my most fun activity till date has been, if I have a complex concept, can I write some code to understand that, visualize it. So that's something which I've been doing even till now. Watch some YouTube videos on perhaps some new uh, architecture has come up in machine learning, implement it from scratch, understand it better. So that's the kind of mold I had. I continue doing it till now.
So you are a very good researcher, a very good teacher, mentor, and everything like that. But what does your day-to-day Sunday look like
Okay.
besides all this research and all?
I think it is sometimes doing the weekly groceries. It is catching up on nap, which I could not
Not
get throughout
get
the
through the
week.
week.
I have a 5-year-old, so just perhaps playing
Play
with
with her.
her, or maybe just a small outing. Sometimes just completing things which were pending.
So
And of late, I think the tools like Claude Code have spoilt me,
yeah.
because I have always wanted to build things, and now I have powerful, I don't know, powerful teams of agents like Claude Code, which allow me to do very crazy things which I have always wanted to do, but never had the skills or the background to do that. I don't perhaps create a phone app to control the television, because once the internet gets logged out on the television, I don't want to be typing uh, via the TV remote, creating some weird things for perhaps health monitoring, or doing all sorts of automations which I would have otherwise liked.
Once upon a time, we had this amazing, excellent calculation skills, and with the
Yeah, 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 yeah.
upcoming of calculator, now we don't have it. I
Right.
just hope it doesn't happen with coding. That's my wish. Okay.
English is the new language of coding.
Okay. So, if your 22-year-old self would be able to look at this, look at you right now, what would he say?
Having spent those years, having seen that a lot of these worries, a lot of these concerns really do not matter, as long as you're learning, you're growing, you're having fun, and you're not doing something which should not be doing, I think you'll largely be okay. So that is something I'd like to tell to my 20-year-old, 22-year-old self.
That is indeed a sweet note to end on.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Nipun Batra, it was absolutely amazing having you here and
Same here.
having
Thank
this
you.
stimulating conversation with you.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
hope to
Rosie.
have you back again sometime soon, since
Sure.
this is your home.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that was Professor Nipun Batra. We hope to see you again. Until then, connect, learn, and evolve.